horrible. But it would be wonderful to see that happen, just because then what do you do? And of
Yeah.
course, we all know what they do. They go after, okay, well, you got the 60. You didn't see my other list here. I've been making it and checking it twice. So it becomes a slippery slope. So the only thing Biden could do is issue a blanket pardon from the time of birth to right this moment to every single person in this country, which obviously the logistics of that, I don't even know how you would do it, but
A big
there
piece of
will
paper.
always be somebody else for them to go after. So giving these people that are listed blanket immunity, sure, that's great for them, but okay, they'll just move on to the people that they haven't publicly stated, and eventually they work their way to me and you. They get their production crews, they go after the Republicans. So,
Yeah.
he's got to at least take it down to me, because I think I'm a little lower on that, ladder than everybody else. So get to me, and that'll definitely cover you and everybody else at TYT, and we'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, you're in Florida. You should really watch out. God knows what they'll do to you.
I know.
Yeah, I look. If I thought that any of these people had done crimes that Kash Patel was going to actually investigate them for, I would not want them to be pardoned.
Right.
And if you'd asked me 2 months ago, should he do these pardons, I would probably have said no. But I am trying to learn. I'm trying to catch up to this new political reality. So I think that Joe Biden should do it. He should do the list. He should put them in the exact order that they're in Kash Patel's book. He should list it all. And then under his rationale for it section, it should just say, get effed Kash. Signed Joe Biden. I think that's all it should say. He should then, I think he should draw himself in pencil, flipping the double bird to Kash Patel, and he should publish it on Blue Sky. I think that's what he should do. And I'm only like 5% joking. Honestly, screw these people. That's what I have to say.
And I do think, give the pardon to Donald Trump as well, because then he no longer has Fifth Amendment protection. You can force him to testify against the people that were in his administration. That would be hilarious too.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, getting creative. I like it. Anyway, I have a lot more thoughts about Joe Biden and the pardons, but we'll see if it ends up happening. He still has some time, and we unfortunately are out of time for the show. But Farron, it's always a pleasure having you on. We always have a lot of fun. Thank you for giving us some of your incredibly valuable time.
Thank you. I enjoy it tremendously.
Thank you. Everybody go follow Farron, not only on YouTube, but also on Blue Sky. We're trying to keep him clean and not have him regress and go back to Twitter. Anyway. And for all of you out there, tomorrow Brett will be on the show. We'll be throwing out our garbage people of the week. You can vote for the community garbage person of the week by heading to the community tab over at youtube.com/the damage report. Can't wait to see who you choose. For now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.
Welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Ritchie. Good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today. Breaking down news of the day, none other than Mayor Mondale Robinson, infield mayor. Always fascinating to have his analysis. Top story of the day. Well, here we go. Michigan man threatened to set a school on fire, receives no jail time. Put him up full mass. He threatened to set the school on fire, a school his daughter attended in the state of Michigan. He was engaged in a racist rant, actually could have spent 20 years in prison based on the charge. However, he received probation, 8 years. He stated, just so you understand the underlying offense, I'm going to come back and kill all of you and burn this blank to the ground. End quote. 38-year-old Thomas Latting. Put the picture back up, Jordan. Now, I want to make sure people know we didn't make a mistake. He's 38. I know he looks 83. 38-year-old Thomas Latting received 8 years probation after pleading no contest to 4 felony charges: ethnic intimidation, intentional threat to commit an act of violence against a school, false report, a threat of terrorism, and false report or threat of a bomb, harmful device. Here are the details by Christian Boone from Atlanta Black Star. The incident occurred in the month of February. Michigan Police Department involved Michigan State Police. Detective Stacy Moore said Mr. Latting was also confused about where he should collect his daughter. He arrived around 5:30, well past the 5 p.m. pickup time. So he directed his animus towards an after-school teacher at the elementary school. This is in the Flint suburb of Mount Morris Township. The county prosecutor, David Layton, said Mr. Latting used the N-word more than once as part of his threatening remarks. So what do we know now? We know that the individuals he decided to make victims, well, they were Black. And because of his inability to responsibly, as the detective said, collect his daughter, he's upset at the race of the individual who has provided love and care for his child and was responsible that day. There's more. Quote, I'm going to come back and kill all of you and burn this blank to the ground. The victim said she took Mr. Latting seriously with good reasoning. This was not the first rodeo. Ms. Latting was convicted, in 2009 of one count of arson of a dwelling house, one count of explosives, and 3 counts of assault with a dangerous weapon. Now, a count of arson in a dwelling house means you knew somebody was dwelling in it. That's attempted murder in some jurisdictions. So the incident was reported to the local school superintendent and to the local police department. They alerted the FBI threat center, and the Michigan State Police Intelligence Center. Layton said, quote, Mr. Latting appears to have a volatile personality based not only on this incident, but his past criminal record. It was his past record and known history that particularly caused concern in this incident and indicated that we should not take his words at the school as idle threats, but as words to be heeded with great caution. Put him back up. He gets no jail time. There's no first offender argument. There's no, he made a mistake. He's young and immature. But I want you to contextualize this person with the anger you see from the system when there's a 17-year-old kid who did something dumb. They are ready to lock up every Black teenager they see, pass laws in order to criminalize minors, pass laws in order to criminalize individuals who have a social group they will now call you a gang. But for Mr. Latting, I mean, he's obviously worthy of a second chance here. All right, Mr. Mayor, the background already is problematic. The fact that the school was aware of the background and he actually said it on the school property, which is another aggravated dynamic of the whole thing. But he gets no jail time. What say you?
The magic of white supremacy is on display with this case. The idea, one, that this man was arrested and not killed, like if he was Black, what would have happened to him? The idea that you didn't go to prison, that you're not still in prison for the first charges, because we know what prosecutors like to do when their defendant is Black. They over-sentence, they overcharge. That one charge, that arson with people inside the dwelling, would have been attempted murder, as you said, and so many other charges. We know that it wouldn't have just been one or two charges or three charges. It would have been racked up, and he would have been spent a lot more time in prison. But to carry that further, to have this man be late for his responsibility and then blame that on other people is the height of white supremacy. My inconvenience based on my actions are still your problems as Black people. And I get the right to say that I'm going to kill you and threaten you. A true threat. Like you said, this person has a history of burning things down. So him saying that should have been taken with extreme caution. And also, I don't even know how he was out on bail. I don't understand any of this story. And we're talking about, this is a country that supposedly love our kids so much that we're worried about gender affirming care, but we can't care to affirm these kids' right to go to school without being threatened by somebody who was late to pick up their kid and has a history of bombing and blowing things up.
Well said. We will bring updates as they develop. All right, major company alert here. Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield announced, well, we got time limits on anesthesia. Here it is.
Timothy!
Yeah, boss.
What on earth is sevoflurane? It's a common medication anesthesiologists use for general anesthesia. Do you have any idea how expensive this is? Yeah, it costs money to keep a patient alive while a surgeon cuts into them. Well, I saw a movie once where a person was given a stick to bite down on while his leg was... Yeah, I'm going to stop you right there. We have to cover general anesthesia. Fine, but I say for how long? What? New rule. If a surgery goes over a designated amount of time, Blue Cross will stop paying for general anesthesia for the rest of the surgery. And who determines how long a surgery should last? I will. You, an insurance executive, will tell an anesthesiologist and surgeon how long a surgery should last. Come on, Jimothy. How hard could it be? Give me a surgery. I'll tell you how long it is. Okay, kidney transplant, 30 minutes.
Wow. The parody is real. Put it at full mass because this individual is a remarkable human being, a comedian and ophthalmologist. Dr. Glockenflaken isn't the only medical professional calling out Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. It's a new policy, obviously. It has also led to sharp criticism from the American Society of Anesthesiologists, who warned that the decision could jeopardize patient safety, obviously, increase financial strain on both patients and providers. So the proposed new policy would no longer reimburse anesthesia services for the complete duration of certain surgical procedures, opting instead for a partial coverage model. And the head of the ASA has called it, quote, appalling and, quote, egregious, creating a precarious situation for patients undergoing surgery. Anthem BCBS said plans representing Connecticut, New York, and Missouri have unilaterally declared they will no longer pay for anesthesia care if the surgery or procedure goes beyond an arbitrary time limit, regardless of how long the surgical procedure takes, reported the ASA, who has condemned the decision and called on Anthem to reverse this proposal immediately. Meanwhile, TikTokers stand on content best summarize the issue from a patient's perspective. Here it is.
Hey, big dog. Let me get this off you real quick, player. What? What's happening? Yeah, so your anesthesia time just ran out. They said we can't keep you under unless you come up off some bread. Some bread? How much? About $4,500 for another hour. But I can do a 15-minute extension for about $900. Man, $4,500, I ain't got that. Yeah, man, but you want to set up a payment plan or you want to try to stay awake and hold this flashlight? So what we doing?
Yeah, and the timing of this whole thing is ironic. Here it is.
Today, y'all released that. Y'all, case you missed it, the internet has been in a bit of a tizzy because a CEO got unalived casually on a New York side street in front of a Hilton. And then hours later, Blue Cross Blue Shield decided today was the time they were going to announce that they were going to stop routine anesthesia for surgeries if the surgery goes longer than the insurance is expected for it to go. You clearly have a case of a targeted attack against the CEO of a health organization. And your response to the world and the country is to not pay for things that you guys have paid for in the past, while also increasing premiums for people. Thoughts and claims, thoughts and deductibles, concepts of condolences.
She wasn't the only one who made the link. Here it is. Put them up full mass. One poster tweeted, quote, the United Healthcare assassin, after seeing this, I got one more in me. Another poster would tweet, quote, there's a guy on the city bike with something to say about that. Another reference to the United Healthcare assassin. It's a hell of a thing, right? So let me get out of the land of speculation and let's go to the position that has been presented as fact, because the reality is the facts are damning enough. So the major insurance company that says they give a damn about you, they will not pay for surgery that goes beyond the expected time frame, whatever the hell that may be. What is this about? So now I'm going to jump in speculation. A conversation was had, multiple conversations. Probably told the hospitals, who told the doctors, you're taking too damn long in these surgeries. It's costing a lot of money for this treatment. Because insurance companies are letting you know who actually runs healthcare. By doing this, they are shaping the future care that you will receive. Why? Because the hospital, typically the director is a penny pincher. And that penny pincher will then pinch the doctors. And the doctors will then pinch you because the insurance company pinched first. Who runs medicine? Not hospitals, and unfortunately, not the doctors. Mr. Mayor, hell of a thing. Thoughts?
Yeah, Doc, I think this is they're making an ironclad case to why we should not have insurance companies involved in healthcare, which is why they made the case in this argument right here why we need universal healthcare. This is why when doctors can't worry about what they know they need to do, instead they need to worry about if they're going to get paid for doing what they're doing. That is in fact threatening the patient's lives. This is absolutely disgusting, not just because of the timing, and we saw what happened in New York with the CEO of United, but just because forever it's disgusting to tell doctors that, well, at this point, we're going to cut off this service, even if you say you need it. Because for me, I feel like this is a testing of the water, because now you're saying we're not going to pay for anesthesia past this point. Next is going to be like, well, this surgery, we're not going to pay for this type of surgery beyond this point altogether. So it's a slippery slope that I don't think we should be having a conversation about anyway, being that we're the last developed nation, supposedly developed nation, that does not have universal health care. We have our neighbors to the south that we criticize, like Cuba, that is poor, supposedly, but they've been providing universal health care to all of the citizens of Cuba since the 70s. This is why Black people in Cuba aren't losing their legs and foot to diabetes. This is why Black people in Cuba have longer lives than Black people in America, because of insurance and the role they play in our healthcare. We need to get money. We talk about money out of politics. We need money out of healthcare, and it needs to be universal because it should be a basic right. And people shouldn't have to be worried about what the comedian was joking about, where you be waking up in the middle of surgery and say, we can't go beyond this unless you got money to give us. This is absolutely an attack on poor people, poor tax.
Yeah, and they know there's nobody who would check them. Who's going to check them? The few progressives that would have corporate Democrats took their power away, or at least tried to. The Republicans, please. Nobody is in position to check them. So that was definitely a calculation. We'll bring you updates as they come. All right. A few months back, I brought you a story about a family who adopted Black children and abused them. The couple enslaved them, and they got new charges. Put it up full mass. Remember these guys. In an update, Donald Ray Lance and Jean K. Whitefeather, a West Virginia couple accused of locking their adopted Black children in a barn and using them for forced labor, pleaded not guilty this week to a slew of new abuse charges, compounding the horrors allegedly inflicted on their defenseless kids. So Ms. Whitefeather, 62 years of age, is a cute, man, she look evil as hell. Put her picture back up. Damn. Looks like she abuses the husband. I don't know. I'm just. Whitefeather, 62. is accused of spraying and exposing 4 of her adopted children to bear spray and repellent. She is now facing 4 counts of child abuse resulting in bodily injury. Donald, the husband, 63, was also charged with 1 count of child abuse for striking one of the children. The couple are already charged with human trafficking of a minor, civil rights violations based on color, race, and/or ancestry, use of a minor child in forced labor, and child neglect, creating a substantial risk of serious bodily injury or death. They were already charged with that and still had access to children. Let me give you the background as to what happened initially. So police were conducting a wellness check. This was at the Cheyenne Lane home, October 2nd, 2023. They were shocked to discover 2 of the couple's 5 adopted children living in deplorable conditions. The children had been padlocked inside a ramshackle storage shed on the back of the property, had no working lights, had no running water. Testifying at their second bond hearing, Whitefeather explained that the barn was a, quote, teenage clubhouse and insisted the children were not actually locked inside. So police reported that a small RV toilet seat, was placed in a barn for the children to use. At the second bond hearing, Whitefeather described the barn as a teenage clubhouse and claimed the children were never locked in, but the neighbors disputed the claim, stating the children were forced to do farm labor. They were not allowed inside the residence, according to the indictment. Now, the children clearly said they were locked inside of the building. The police got to the property based on the original reporting. They had to break in the door. It was clearly locked. And the precedent of not allowing slaves inside of your property that you didn't want inside your home was alive and well with this couple. When the children were rescued, the 16-year-old girl told deputies they had been locked in a barn for about 12 hours, having last eaten at sunrise, according to Deputy H.K. Burdett. The children could not exit and required deputies to force entry. Inside, they encountered a disturbing smell and intense heat due to poor ventilation. According to court papers, both children appeared dirty, feral, reeking of body odor, while one of the children, the male child, had open sores on his bare feet. The children told investigators they were forced to sleep on a bare concrete floor with no mattress and no covers. Police remained at the house for 3 hours before Lance arrived home with an 11-year-old male child. When authorities checked the home for other potential victims, they found the 9-year-old up in the loft. And Lance was then placed under arrest. This is the initial incident. About an hour later, his wife came and guided deputies to another 6-year-old, a girl, who was visiting with another couple from their church. So Whitefeather and Lance have been locked up since June, when a judge revoked their initial bond and raised it to $500,000 apiece, more than double the amount they faced in October 2023. They made bail in February and were released. to stand trial. The grand jury indicted the couple on more than a dozen new charges last month. December 2nd, the two pleaded not guilty on the superseding indictment charges. It was later discovered, I want you to put this up, later discovered that the couple sold an 80-acre ranch for $725,000. A few days later, White Feather's brother, Marcus Hughes, posted 2 bonds for $200,000 to release the couple from the South Central Regional Jail. Another once released, they sold the home where the alleged abuse occurred for $295,000, the other home. Those funds, seen as potential profits from human trafficking, are now inaccessible to the defendants. Even if the money came from legitimate sources, it was intended to fund further human trafficking and forced labor. Prosecutors argue, typically they'll freeze the assets before you can do that. I'm okay with them doing it the way they did it. This was one of the most disturbing stories I reported on at Indisputable. I'm a foster child myself. I was a foster kid, all right? I know what that's like. I understand the neglect. I also understand the love. These individuals are on the extreme of evil. And the authorities had a lot of warning before they actually did anything in multiple jurisdictions. The family was under investigation from another state at one point, and they just left and everything went away. All right. Mr. Mayor, thoughts?
Doc, I was on your show when we covered this the first time, and it was disgusting then, and it's absolutely disgusting now. Hearing these extra details, I don't know how people can't connect. And now this is not to minimize what these children went through, but I don't understand how people can't connect these people's behavior to America's refusal to unconditionally apologize and make Black people whole from the institution of slavery. The idea that this is okay rests in its origin state, which is America's institution, its first sin, which is slavery, the locking and controlling of Black bodies. So for this woman to say that these kids weren't locked in that shed, if you can call it that, is like saying that bear spray that she sprayed them with was cologne. Right. This is beyond the right to have a bond. You should not be able to bond out for 10% of $500,000, which is probably what they paid. This is disgusting to me. I'm a little disgusted that I see people do a lot less in our communities, getting a higher bond or no bond at all. And this just furthers the fact that America has a high tolerance for the suffering of Black people.
Yeah, you make a great point. The context is unreal, but it's real, right? P. Diddy, who I believe should be in jail, he got denied bond. He's wealthy and well-connected, but they couldn't figure out how to keep these individuals who were actively trafficking, abusing, and enslaving children in jail. They can't figure that out. All right, we got more on the other side. Indisputable, stick and stay.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Idarola. This is gonna be a big one.
Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
Indisputable is still the fastest growing news show in America compared to CNN, Fox News, and 30 other networks. We tell the truth on Indisputable because the truth is indisputable. We go places that other news media outlets refuse to go. When there were human rights abuses happening at the Victorville prison, guards and members of the community contacted us.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
It really doesn't take much to be a trusted voice. All it takes is to be fearless, report on matters, be an advocate. I called it the bullpen intentionally because it's a place of preparation. We present individuals who may have an opposing view, so we debate. Sometimes we interview individuals because their stories deserve to be heard. A survivor of significant police misconduct and his attorney. We covered this story earlier and to remind you of the horror of one man being shot at damn near 100 times by the police. We take time on this show to showcase the temper tantrums of Karens in the wild. We do this not because we want to see people's emotional outbursts in public, but because these incidents are emblematic of a bigger societal issue taking place across the nation, and it has to be checked. My friend, my big homie, attorney at law, Benjamin Crump.
I just want to thank you, man. Educated, articulate brothers like yourself speak truth to power. It makes a great difference in changing the landscape in America. So
listen, no matter what you do, don't allow the politics of ideology to evaporate the soul that still exists inside of you. They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reform, so I won't stop. You won't stop either. All right, welcome back. A lot of show left. Let me read some of these amazing comments. Andrew Martinez, I feel bad for his daughter who has to go home with him. And hopefully she becomes what he could never be. Utilize the lesson to be the catalyst for your future. JMC, this guy's an absolute menace. I've dealt with a situation similar to this. Over the phone threats from someone in Kentucky. They hate themselves more than anyone. That's very true. That's very true. If they could see themselves, they could see you. That's how it works. So when people can't see you, it's because they can't see themselves. All right. Yeah. Electric fried chicken dragon. The agencies charged with protecting children don't. In my county and in the same city, 2 families were enslaving children and abusing and starving them. It took way too long to get these people charged. The agencies are just as monstrous as the people doing the abuse. Those people should never see the light of day. Life in prison is the only way to be sure they never do this to any other children. That's right. I agree. And let's go to layman_shaman or shaman. This will lead to doctors denying care in advance if they anticipate the patient won't be able to afford it. Exactly. That's how it curves the behavior. And the insurance companies probably tried to get this done behind the scenes as they do other stuff. And they could not get that done. So they just did it in front of the scenes at an ironic time. All right, I got something for you, ladies and gentlemen. I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off! I'm going to tell an African-American man threatening my life.
I'm barred from going to a park because of a service animal. What? Do you own this park?
I live right up there.
So do I.
In this 3 times a week.
Okay, so? Do you own this park?
Service animals are not allowed.
Do you own this park?
Dogs are not allowed on this trail. I'm reporting you guys.
We're from the community college, that's fine.
What?
We're from the community college, that's why we're here today. We're on a field trip. So this service dog's allowed in the classroom as well. I'm pretty sure it's federally protected law.
Yeah.
No, this belongs to the city of Fort Collins.
So the way the federal law works,
you're saying that the American with Disabilities Act doesn't apply to
federal law trumps state law.
To city of Fort Collins regulations.
When you have a protected wildlife area, dogs are not allowed. That is a hard and fast rule. Did you see the disturbance of the animals around you as you walk?
This is fascinating. There's an entire college group. Did you see how much land was there? And somehow a Karen is there too. And this Karen isn't just a regular Karen. This is the Karen that cares about animals that are not physically there, but doesn't give a damn about the one animal that is, nor the human being that particular animal is helping. This tour guide, professor, perhaps, I don't know, student, very nice. Watch this.
So service dogs are legally permitted anywhere in the country that visitors can go. So even if dogs are excluded, this is a service animal. So you can call the authorities all you want, but technically this is a completely legal thing.
Did you know that there are protected?
We're gonna move on. Okay.
All right. You guys.
Got him. We're going to move on. Those young people march like trained soldiers after that. Listen, I applaud you all for attempting to reason with this Karen. Understand, that was part of the trip, to see a Karen in the wild. You didn't know that was part of it? You all handled it very well. Let me go ahead and give you the law, Karen. Generally, service animals are allowed to be with their person, even in places that don't allow pets. For example, service dogs can go into restaurants, shops, hospitals, schools, hotels. Example, a restaurant offers indoor and outdoor seating. A woman arrives at the restaurant with her service dog and says, I want to sit inside. Restaurant cannot require the woman to dine outside because of her service dog. Got that directly from the website. Okay, all right, here we go. Mr. Mayor, this is literally a Karen in the wild. I mean, actually a Karen in the wild, right? Who is so extreme, she stops an entire university class that's learning. What say you?
Listen, I think what's synonymous with caring is not knowing. Like, right? Like, to be a Karen, you have to be unintelligent or ignorant about certain things. This lady literally sat up there and made up a rule. The only places service animals can't go is public pools, places of worship, and private clubs and zoos, right? And some of those private clubs even let service animals in there. This is absolutely ludicrous. This is what I mean about inserting yourself in places you have no business. Someone said, folk that mind other people's business ain't got no business of their own, or they don't have a mind for business, right? And this person is clearly out of her mind. What's beautiful though is something that you mentioned when you began speaking. The minute the professor or whoever was in charge said we're going to move on, everybody, like a military unit, started walking as if she didn't matter. And that moment when she realized she was powerless, she just put her head down and walked in the other direction. She ain't calling the police because she has no rule to cite. You're
Right.
so disturbed that you're bothering someone who needs a service animal on a school trip.
Right.
It's disgusting behavior. I feel bad for her. We should move on.
Yeah, well, at this point, public service announcement, opportunity to reflect. Okay, well, here we go. Update. Remember the woman who zipped her significant other inside of luggage, left him there to die, denied it, but told on herself due to a recording. Sarah Boone, Florida woman accused of zipping her boyfriend in a suitcase and leaving him to suffocate and die, will spend the rest of her life in prison. Well, life is the sentence for the murder. Boone was found guilty of second-degree murder and the death of the 42-year-old Jorge Torres Jr. Very sad. Authorities found Mr. Torres, found his dead body in a suitcase at home in Winter Park, Florida in 2020. Ms. Boone, however, told detectives that she and Torres were drinking wine while playing hide and seek and decided it would be funny to zip Torres, who was 5'2", in a suitcase. The 47-year-old said she went to bed after closing the suitcase, but left enough space for Torres to stick a couple of fingers out, believing he could get out on his own. When she woke the next morning, she found his dead body inside the suitcase and immediately called 911. Just a misunderstanding here, officer. Now, she believed that the cops would believe her story as long as he was dead. I wonder where she got that idea from. She told law enforcement that she never meant to leave him there. However, investigation later revealed videos on Boone's phone, on her own phone, that showed Torres pleading for Boone to release him from the suitcase, while a voice presumed to be Boone's taunted him and accused him of cheating. Sarah, I can't effing breathe, Torres was heard saying. Yeah, that's what you do when you choke me. Boone responded in the video. Sarah, Torres said, Sarah, I can't breathe, babe, that's on you. She responded, that's what I feel like when you cheat on me. She later added. All right, there's more. It took more than 4 years. It took more than 4 years for Boone's murder trial to begin, partly because she kept changing attorneys. She represented herself for a brief period of time, her 7-week-long trial, before landing on her 9th attorney, James Owens, to argue her defense. Boone started out a statement by comparing herself to a piece of ceramic that becomes more beautiful when it cracks and is repaired. She went on to forgive Torres for every time he slapped, pulled, pushed, dragged, and humiliated her, according to the testimony. Boone then forgave his family for turning a blind eye to the abuse. As for the media who made her look so bad, she said there was blood all over their hands and keyboard, she said. She then forgave herself for not escaping her abusive situation permanently. Boone labeled herself as a survivor. I forgive myself for falling in love with a monster, she said. Quote, I want him to try to understand how I felt so maybe he could progress and be a better person. Boone said when the prosecutor asked, why didn't you just unzip the suitcase? Boone told the court that she feared Torres would kill her and if she released him from the suitcase. The prosecution argued that Boone intentionally left Torres in the suitcase, not because she feared for her life, but because she felt he deserved to die for his past behavior. The jury found her guilty. One of Torres's daughters, Anna Victoria Torres, said she experienced chronic depression and anxiety after learning of her father's death. In the year after Torres died, she said she woke up screaming every morning or at night wishing I was having a nightmare, only to wake up and remember all over again, my father's gone. Torres' sister, Victoria Torres, said Boone has caused a lifetime of pain and deserved to rot in jail. Her contextualization, even during the trial, was, I mean, that's breathtaking in the most negative way possible. And she's claiming he's a killer, but the only murderer, ma'am, is you. And if you actually engaged in a good faith self-defense dynamic, why did you lie to the police, have a story ready for them, and then record it as if you needed a personal trophy for what you've done? All right, Mr. Mayor, thoughts?
I mean, that video is damning evidence in this case of this idea that he was beating her. You didn't say anything about him beating you in the video. You said he cheated on you. That's why you locked him in there. Yes. And him choking, him not being able to breathe was what he deserved. And it's on him. This is absolutely disgusting, dangerous behavior. Listen, here's what's telling. This woman says she is a survivor. I don't think she understands the definition of survivor in this context. She's not a survivor in the context of abuse. You murdered this man. She's a survivor in that she killed him and he's not here. So I think someone needs to put this delusional person far, far away. And I hope that life in prison came without the opportunity of parole, because this forgiving yourself and blaming everybody for your action does not show a soul of repentance, which should be necessary for this person to be free. But again, I don't think she should ever be freed. I'm in agreement with Torres' sister in that she should be locked away to rot.
Yeah, hell of a story. We got more on the other side. Indisputable stick and stay.
Our audience has given us everything, so we couldn't be more connected. When we first started, people would start giving us directions and say, okay, the mics are too large, move them. Turn them into lav mics. I mean, they were incredible. And then one guy walked in and gave us a really expensive switcher and said, you guys need this, and walked out. Okay, it's amazing. They helped us build a studio. They did a $2 million funding campaign for us. And so they really are us. We do this show together to the point where some of our hosts are even former listeners. So when we say that the audience is part of TYT, we really mean it.
I think what the audience also appreciates is especially if they're members, they really get an inside look into who we are, our personal lives, what drives and motivates us. It goes beyond just storytelling. I think that what we do is allow our viewers and our listeners into our daily lives, and we give them kind of like this inside look into everything that we're passionate about and why it is that we're doing what we're doing, right? Like the motivation behind what we're doing, I think, is important for our audience to know, and we're not shy about sharing that with them. And it's different from what people typically see in legacy media outlets, where everything is kind of dry and robotic and there's really no personality or authenticity that comes along with it. Oftentimes when we're doing the show, I don't really think of it as me telling them stories. I think of it as us having a mutual respect and conversation with one another. And as I said earlier, I mean, not only do I feel that through the work I do, I'm informing our audience, but they inform me oftentimes as well. You know, they'll pitch stories to us. They'll tell us, you know, a certain perspective or angle to a story that we might have missed. And I love it.
How in the world are you going to get the right to vote if you don't already have the right to vote? That's impossible. Reason they tell you things are impossible is because they don't want you to try. It only took 7 years for that to get an amendment to get a right to vote.
Does this result in millions upon millions of Americans losing their coverage? And we've been waiting to find out, and now we know, yes, it will cut millions.
Public education was supposed to be the way to equalize everyone regardless of their socioeconomic status. But if you come from a family that's poor, how are you going to afford grade school for your kids?
This fight is about fairness and morality. It's about the American values.
You think that black people all across the country, in every city, were all lying when they said the police abuse us and the police kill us when they should? No, of course they weren't lying. Yes, it does happen. Yes, they do get targeted more.
Why are we going to put immigrants in prison for 5 years, which American taxpayers have to pay for, if we're so concerned with immigrants using up our so-called resources?
We're gonna do both. We're gonna fight Trump and we're gonna fight the establishment. It is not that hard. Yes, you can do both at the same time. Go tell them.
Hi, I'm Bartholomew Joseph Kyle. I do audio for the main show, The Young Turks. I also do audio for Post Game. I started in 2006. I met Cenk Uygur at the Iraq for Sale screening that was directed by Robert Greenwald. And watching that, I want to figure out a way to be part of something that's genuine and authentic.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. A lot of comments. I will read as many as I can. All right. Yep, JMC says, pleasing shareholders is a hell of a drug, talking about Blue Cross. Electrified chicken dragon, a Karen in the wild, and the wild Karen. They're so miserable in their lives, they have to try and make others miserable. Those young people know their rights, and she makes it up as she goes. She's a sad person, sad person. Yeah. Yeah. And constant chaos, if your service dog is properly trained, they will not disturb the wildlife. But if your service dog is trying to snap at protected wildlife, you should leave and not return unless the situation changes. Yeah. And there was no evidence that happened. Cyber Gothica, after that Karen, I know there will be Karens on Mars. The first will be Elon. That was good. All right. Well, DOJ, Department of Justice, says Memphis police are racist. What? Put it up full mass. A report done by the Department of Justice found that the Memphis Police Department is actually racist, discriminates against Black people, mentally impaired individuals, and yes, children. The investigation follows a 2023 beating death of a Black motorist named Tyree Nichols. Remember that. Here's a screen grab from a video release by Memphis Police Department, January 27th. 3 of the officers still face a murder trial in Tennessee State Court in April. Now, remember what happened to Nichols. Officer pepper sprayed Nichols and hit him with a taser. Officers chased Nichols and kicked, punched, and hit him. And officers laughed as Nichols struggled. The report findings showed Memphis police conduct unlawful stops, searches and arrests, discriminating responses to people with behavioral health disabilities, and in its treatment of children, quote, who have experienced aggressive and frightening encounters with officers, the report said. The DOJ acknowledged in the statement that the police had undergone some reforms, but said more changes were needed to correct the issues it found. The Justice Department statement said the Memphis Police Department and the city government cooperated fully with the investigation. Federal officials, quote, will be conducting outreach to members of the Memphis community for input on remedies to address the department's findings, it said. The city claims that this report, however, was rushed. The city's letter said, quote, a legal finding supporting the contention that the city's patterns and practices violate the Constitution requires a legal process, which includes the city's ability to challenge the Justice Department's methods of evaluating information and the credibility of witnesses. Until the city has had opportunity to review, analyze, and challenge the specific allegations that support your forthcoming findings report, the city cannot and will not agree to work toward or enter into a consent decree that will likely be in place for years to come and will cost the residents of Memphis hundreds of millions of dollars, the letter said. Spokesperson for the Memphis Police Department directed inquiries for comment on the investigation to City Hall. Now, before I give it to you, let me tell you what's happening. While they say this is going to cost the citizens of Memphis so much money, police defund the police by millions every year. And I have never heard one of you say, we're tired of these police taking away the good taxpayer money. What they're really doing here is they're waiting for Trump to take office because he's going to get rid of these consent decrees, okay? He's not going to enforce the ones that are under investigation. The individuals who are in charge now will not be in charge in a few days. That is the game they're playing. So while they would disguise this as some kind of just us being responsible reviewers of the findings and looking out for you, they are simply protecting the corruption inside. You know, if you're a good cop, you want transparency. If you're a good cop, you want a camera so that when somebody falsely accuses you, you have the evidence to show you were being a good cop. But if you are not, transparency is your enemy. The Justice Department has looked into other cities. June 2023, another Justice Department inquiry alleged that Minneapolis, George Floyd, they engaged in racism. March 2023, Department found police, Louisville, Kentucky. Racism, Breonna Taylor. In other words, every time we see an unarmed dead Black person in particular, well, you have a lot of unarmed dead Black people prior to that day. That would happen to make the news. All right, Mr. Mayor, thoughts?
Yeah, listen, I mean, like, we didn't need the Justice Department to say this because we already knew it. The only people that didn't know it or didn't want to know it was the police union or Memphis Police Department itself. Here's my problem with this. What they should have said was the people of Memphis has grounds for a class action lawsuit against the police department. That's what they should be trying to do. And that's what the idea that Memphis is saying that they think this is bias or it's not a real investigation. It's not bore out by what we saw, what happens to Mr. Nichols. We see
That's
and
right.
see your practices. It was these people were a part of a force. We covered this on this show. These people were a part of a police force that routinely violated people's Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights by kicking in their doors and doing all types of things when they stopped them for no reason. And then the Justice Department simply just co-signed what we already knew. These people were in violation of Black folks' human rights, as we continue to see with police departments, not just in Tennessee and Memphis, but all over this country.
Yeah, and the reality is, while Democrats, when in power, will give lip service to things like this, if they were authentic about transforming the paradigm, they would do the one thing they could have done, and that's to actually take away the federal funding to those police departments, or threaten to do so, because they are in fact in violation of the federal protocol, which says if you get federal money, you cannot engage in discrimination. But for some reason, police departments, well, they get immunity from that too. A college would not, nor an elementary school, but a police department will. Okay. Racial slur at an Atlanta bar leads to a brawl. I mean, a wild brawl. A lot of people got injured. Atlanta police are investigating a fight that took place at a bar, leaving several people injured and landing one woman in the hospital. According to WSB-TV, the brawl broke out at the Ideal Sports Bar in Southeast Atlanta. Witnesses told the outlet that the fight erupted between several people when an exchange of politically charged statements and racist insults were heard. In the moments before the fight, multiple band members at the bar reportedly started making political statements about white people, which prompted a man to start heckling and intimidating them. Once that man hurled the N-word at Black band members, the band all of a sudden was no longer the band. Now, the verbal altercation escalated into physical violence. Quote, "I think they wanted to kill. They didn't want to fight," one band member said. Quote, "Once the N-word was thrown out, I knew it was going to be pretty bad," another band member stated. A video shows the brawl in full force with several people shoving and punching each other on a pool table. At one point, a man is seen hitting a woman with a pool stick. Quote, "I didn't expect it to get as serious as it did. I didn't expect that much violence," one band member said. Another witness said that the woman who was hospitalized after the fight had to get 8 stitches in the back of her head. A bar manager said that the bar does not invite discriminatory behavior and treatment, and that this fight was an isolated instance. Quote, "We're not like that. You come on Thursday night, and there's a ton of different colored people there," the bar manager remarked. But because there was one racial allegedly slur, then they take it to a whole new level, end quote. Bar owners have banned all people who were involved in the fight. They wrote on the bar's Facebook page, which appears to have been deactivated for the time being, that the establishment has, quote, "never tolerated a space for bigotry, white supremacy, or violence." No charges have been filed yet, but the band members stated they want the man believed to have incited the fight found and arrested. Okay. The reason why I'm bringing you this story is because, well, the why. This is not just a regular bar fight. Bar fights happen all the time. We don't cover them typically, unless it's a Karen involved. But this particular bar fight happened because of politics. Politics, cause, effect. And one of the band members said, "This guy didn't want to fight. I think he wanted to kill." Where would he get that idea from? The extreme nature in which we contextualize politics today has taken a different life, right? Well, it's not just politics. This is about personal race identity and white supremacy for the bigots at the root of it. So their policies reflect this supremacist mindset, from disrupting how teachers can teach to launching campaigns against people who are woke, as if that should be a thing. All right, Mr. Mayor, thoughts here.
Doc, I'm glad you said that because it's absolutely correct. This is not about this idea of woke. We should be clear. Woke is a word that Black people have been using all the way back to since Marcus Garvey, about being aware about what it means to be Black and how white systems treat and will take and kill you. That's what the word woke means. So when you hear woke, you better know they are talking about anti-Black behavior. That is the root of it. That is the root of it. And I think that band member is absolutely correct. This person want to exercise their white right to not have to worry about what happens to Black people when they are exercising their whiteness. And I think in that case, you also prove the point why while all speech is not protected speech, while there should be a federal charge for this behavior, while this should be also classified as a hate crime, because you lead to things that can be dangerous, very dangerous for other people. Just like you can't run around a theater and scream that it's on fire. That is not protected speech. This is equivalent to that. You running around a bar where people are drinking and screaming racial slurs can start the same effect where other people can die, and it should be punishable in this country, but for America calmness and okay with the fact that Black people don't deserve to be protected in that manner.
That's right. And it comes down to intent. I know people will say freedom of speech, freedom of speech. Every freedom has the seed of responsibility attached to it. Freedoms are for everyone, which means in order for everyone to have those freedoms, responsibility has to be attached. So if you decide to yell, scream, and be aggressive, incite violence, well, your intent is different. So your intent can be weighed. Some jurisdictions actually enforce it. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm at a Wolfpack gathering.
We're growing. I see faces that I recognize, but I also see a lot of faces that I don't recognize, and that's fantastic.
We are all taking time out of our lives to be here, and that's amazing. That means we truly believe in this. Make no mistake, everyone in this room is a leader in a Wolfpack.
Alaska, West Virginia, Montana, Georgia, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, everyone is here. All these folks paid with their own money and sometimes took vacation days to come here to strategize on how to get our democracy back and get money out of politics.
Or you get more political power just because you have more money. This is why it requires a constitutional amendment.
The process of winning in your state next year doesn't begin when session begins. It begins right now.
To work to a goal, something this big that you're actually making a difference of, there's very few things in the world that really compare to that feeling.
Equal rights, a fair representation, rights for human beings, anti-corruption laws, and free and fair elections. That's what we are fighting for.
What were the founding fathers? Revolutionaries. And they built revolution into the document.
So Article 5 is the way we have to go.
This is how you do it.
You're in this as a team, you're in this together. The fight will always continue.
That fight is not between the left and the right. That fight is between basically greed and humanity.
So I'm asking you to put differences aside, whether you're conservative or independent or progressive, to join forces to say no more corruption.
You get beyond the fear, you take that first step, and you'll change the world.
What I want to leave you with, of course, is hope. And I want to assure you that if we keep fighting together, we're going to win together. We're going to get that convention, we're going to get that amendment, and we're going to get our democracy back. Come join us, wolf-pack.com.
At TYT, we depend on our audience to help us deliver the news and try to fight for positive change. We've been doing that for 22 years because of you guys. So now, because of our new campaign, there's some awesome perks that come along with supporting the Young Turks and to get us through this storm. That's why, for example, one of the perks is the Riders in the Storm t-shirt. There's other fun things like me leaving a voicemail for you guys
And then there's bigger ones where you could name items in the office or the studio. Some of you have already done that, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Tracy Rager named Anna's gavel Charlie Rules after her dog. That's so sweet. Thank you, Tracy. Jeffrey Manzer named my studio light. I look so pretty now because of Jeffrey, but that's what I love. That's how connected we are to our audience. That's why we're one of the few digital media companies that have survived so far. So if you want to help, go to tyt.com/perks. And you really are part of our team when you come and help, because we can't do this without you guys. But with you guys, we are too strong.
I really love what y'all do on the Young Turks, man. And it's a very refreshing, voice. Y'all don't lean to one side. I tell people all the time, if you want to go really hear what's going on honestly in our society, you should tune in to the Young Turks.
Thank you, Charlemagne. We appreciate that.
That's awesome. Really appreciate it, brother. The media can't stop talking about gridlock in Washington, as if a handful of stubborn Republicans are the only thing standing between us and a fully functional democracy. The reality is that our government was taken over by big business and their allies in both political parties. And corporate media adds to the dysfunction. The good news is that the American people are progressive and soon will take over Washington. My book, Justice is Coming, is our battle plan for making that happen. You can get Justice is Coming wherever books and audiobooks.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. I got time to read some comments. All right. Yeah, Octosquidies, I agree with you. That's the only correct way to deal with Karens. Walk away, let them chase you, file a harassment complaint and possible assault charge when the Karen call arrive. Cops are getting hip to it. All right. I think you all have something to do with that. Okay. Well, the irony, a Black attorney suing the Department of Labor for mistreatment. It's a hell of a thing. Put it up for a mass. That attorney, Oscar Hampton, formerly a regional solicitor for the department in Philadelphia. Hampton has been fighting his demotion and eventual dismissal for 2 years. At first, he fought it internally, and now a lawsuit has been filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. Reporting from Jill Jordan Sider at Atlanta Black Star breaks it down. Let's rewind. Before his firing in September 2023, Oscar Hampton was a top civil litigator who had worked at DOL, Department of Labor, since 1989 and led his office's legal team to victory in an overtime pay case with a jury verdict award of $22 million for 7,500 workers at Battery Maker East Penn, one of the largest verdicts in the department's history. Even as he presided over that complex employment law case, Hampton alleges that he faced retaliation from white supervisors for complaining about desperate treatment, systemic discrimination, and a hostile work environment that he and other Black lawyers were contending with at the DOL. Now, according to his lawsuit claims that in response to his complaints, his supervisors launched an investigation into his management style, made false and unsubstantiated allegations against him, demoted him, unfairly denied him pay and bonuses, and damaged his professional reputation before terminating him. According to his complaint, throughout his employment, certain white attorneys targeted Hampton and other Black managers with racist and biased complaints based on racial tropes, complaining that Hampton was, quote, overbearing, intimidating, confrontational, and aggressive. Those are all of the qualities I look for in my attorney. Every single one of them. Y'all didn't say that when he got y'all that 22 million. Okay. So one white attorney, Judson Dean, referred to the Black female attorneys who worked under Hampton as his, quote, flying monkeys, and leveled unfounded accusations of incompetence against them, the complaint says. Mr. Dean later complained that Hampton, quote, just powers over people. Oscar Hampton is physically imposing and has one of the deepest and loudest voices, end quote, which the lawsuit deemed to be invoking the racist stereotype that Mr. Hampton was a big, scary Black man. So Mr. Hampton complained when Hampton complained to his direct supervisor, Stanley King, the deputy solicitor for regional enforcement, about such racial slurs and other harassing and discriminatory conduct. King took no steps to investigate or correct it, which, by the way, is a complete violation of Department of Labor rules. Nanda directed King to investigate the matter, but he did not. The complaint says, instead, King posed the question to ask Dean to solicit complaints from other attorneys to support a discriminatory and retaliatory investigation into Hampton. That internal investigation over the next 2 years found that Hampton had bullied his staff and created a toxic environment where his subordinates feared reprisal for disagreeing with him and pursuing suspected violations of laws and regulations. So in 2023, Oscar Hampton was fired. In September 2023, Hampton was terminated from DOL altogether, and a notice that stated he should be removed from federal service due to the results of the investigation and other alleged misconduct. He's now seeking to get his job back, be awarded punitive and compensatory, the DOL to revamp his anti-discrimination policies and those policies and procedures. So I try to look at stuff from the lens of where I'm from, Glenwood Road, because we can get caught up in the complexities of the back and forth and the legalities that are involved. Here's the one thing that did it for me. It's not the fact he won 22 million. It's the fact he's been there since 1989. I don't see a professional man of any job being somewhere since 1989. And then all of a sudden, he decides to simply, well, let's just say underperform and be overbearing. If he was overbearing for a long time and they had no issue with it. Matter of fact, it may be an overbearing type of industry. Maybe part of his success, who knows? But it has nothing to do with his job performance. Believe that brother had that job since 1980. Now, do you know how many administrations he survived? All right. Mondale, it's quite a miracle in this era for a Black man in particular, regardless of education and professional ability, right? To have a job at one place that's highly political at times since 1989.
34 years, Doc.
Yeah.
People need to understand what that means. Let me paint that.
And he want to come back, Mondale.
And he's trying to come back. Let me paint that time span for people. 1989 to the time that man was let go is the equivalent of 1955 to 1989. He did that job in the same time from 1955 to 1989. Imagine all the changes that happened then imagine all the changes that happened. And it wasn't until he started complaining, whistleblowing about the racist actions happening in that department that he was retaliated against, which is also illegal against federal. If you are a whistleblower about something happening at the federal level in a federal agency, you should not be retaliated against, right? So this man was targeted. His supervisor said, not only are we not going to investigate your claims of discriminatory practices, we're going to find people to support our actions against you. And then you use the base tropes of against black men. He has a loud voice. Lawyers are supposed to project, right? He has a loud voice. He's overbearing. He's also successful at his job, or he wouldn't have been there for 30 some years. And you can't tell me he was protected by the union because he's in management and there's no union for management.
That's right.
There's no union for management. So this idea is absolutely dastardly and disgusting. And I think this story made my hands sweat. And I know you remember what happened to Shirley Sherrod, Doc.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is like the same damn thing.
Yep. Very good point, dear brother. And I will say this, just to remind people, the job that this attorney had was advocating for people. So when there was discrimination or unfair conditions, et cetera, he was the attorney, one of the attorneys, but a lead attorney to advocate for people and hold corporations accountable, right? So they mess with the right one on this one. We'll bring you updates as they come. We got more on the other side, indisputable. Stick and stay.
Magic. It's showtime. And say 45 minutes. I'm hosting today. Now I know what you're thinking, Jerry, your face is already perfect, but you know what? I still need to apply some makeup. I went through this process, right? A few years ago when I realized that I was gonna have to wear makeup on the show. I had to go through like finding out what my undertones were. You guys know what those are? I got my MAC Cosmetics. It says SPF 15 foundation, broad spectrum. But apparently what I have is red undertones, and I think pores are not supposed to be seen. I need all these things to be confirmed for me. These sponge things don't work for me. You gotta use your hands. This idea. That's how the magic really happens. So we're gonna go through a tutorial how to make the magic happen from beautiful to beautifuler. Let's go. I've already been moisturized. That's the first thing. But moisturization already happened. We go raw. All hands. Pick up a couple streaks. This is the guy we were putting on makeup. We got dots. There's some shiny points that generally happen. First of all, here we go. You dust here. I'm putting way too much, but you dust. Oh, get the excess off. You don't want chunky powder. There's like a T-zone, I think, right? Mine is a double T-zone. Because I went middle and another cross. Make sure your nose isn't all shiny. People get on you for it. You know what I'm saying? That's not a good point you made on there, JR. Your nose is shiny. You guys are picky like that sometimes. I think that's about it, fellas and ladies. See you guys next time. Bitsies.
All right, welcome back. Let me read a couple of comments. Thank you all. cray souffle. Though compensation is good in many cases, if it weren't for phones and security cams, folks of color would still be the unbelieved victims of police brutality. That's right. And G. Martinez Mack, evil persists because accountability is treated like an optional side dish. At the main course, retaliation is a scare tactic to ensure racism flourishes behind closed doors. And it also shows you the culture, shows you the true culture of the organization, because retaliation in any corporation requires conspiracy. It requires conspiracy. And that conspiracy only survives in a culture of corruption. All right, I got a question for you. What in the red state hell?
You can take a gun, shoot somebody in the face. It's not hard. Sometimes it might even be fun if they're a godless commie.
Now, what they're trying to do is sneak the COVID vaccine in your salads.
I hate math. Somebody say amen.
Yeah, you're looking at Tennessee Republican senator and put him up for a mass. Look, he's doing a two-step. All right, Republican State Senator Ken Yeager. Here's the mugshot, and also conveniently his Senate headshot. Okay. Reporting from Zachary Lehman, a Mediaite breakdown. Here's what happened. Tennessee State Senator Ken Yeager, Republican, 77 years of age, was arrested for driving under the influence after police located his vehicle following reports of a hit and run. Georgia Department of Public Safety officials confirmed the Tuesday evening arrest to WTVF. In a video published by the local outlet, a man identified as Yeager, whose pants appeared to be wet, struggled to put one foot in front of the other. I just got to stop here. Why y'all made him do a field sobriety test? He soiled his pants and is unaware. Senator Yeager is the GOP Senate Caucus chairman. Yeah, he's been serving in office for 16 years. Luckily, his current term actually ends in 2028. He was busted because he admitted to being involved in a hit and run crash. So Yeager's vehicle, takes another turn, was spotted after a hit and run crash on Jekyll Island. Okay, this is the state of Georgia. We got an island. It's actually pretty nice. Police said he admitted to being involved in the crash. Yeager was then taken to the Glenn County Jail. Glenn County, if you remember that name, that's where the Ahmaud Arbery murder took place. Okay. The investigation is still ongoing. Yeager has been released and he's facing 3 charges: hit and run, failing to stop at a stop sign, and driving under the influence. Keep that picture for a moment. Typically, when there's a hit and run, usually that means somebody else is involved, like there's another person, okay? He is not charged with damage to property. He's not charged with any type of offense that says I harmed another person or created distress for them. My point to you, he's probably going to get off pretty easy here, okay? When asked for a statement, Senator Yeager responded, quote, "An unfortunate incident happened last night. On the advice of my attorney, I cannot discuss the particulars at this time. I am and will continue to cooperate fully with authorities to bring this incident to an appropriate conclusion." Yeah. Yeah, he's been pimping taxpayers for a long time. Long time. Mr. Mayor, he's in another state, right? He's driving drunk in Georgia, okay? Which leads me to believe.
Oh, you already know.
He drives drunk in Tennessee every day.
Already know. Already know. Listen, not only do he drive drunk, he tell him, listen, I had a few, I'm going home. Escort me, get out my way. Right. Escort me and get out my way. This is absolute. He wasn't just tipsy. This man could barely walk, and also he didn't bother looking for a bathroom, judging by his pants.
And didn't care.
Didn't care. The audacity. They asked him, "Do you want to do that field sobriety test?" People don't know that, but they asked you, and he said, "Yeah." That's the arrogance of what we're watching. The appropriate conclusion of this should be you should be resigning from Tennessee.
Yeah,
that's not what's going to happen. This is going to get swept under the rug because people won't see it. Just as Glenn County was trying to sweep under the rug those folks who murdered Ahmaud Arbery, will start making noise.
That's right. All right, Senator. I mean, listen, I used to be a drinking man myself. Obviously, you need help, but you're 77, you know. All right. My dear brother, always good to have you, man. Tell people how they can follow you and check out your great work.
Yeah, Mayor Mondale on YouTube, Mondale Robinson on all social media platforms, and of course, Black Male Voter Project.
Always appreciate you, dear brother. Remember, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.